4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everyone. This is Mayor Cyril Jefferson calling to order the regular meeting for the High Point City Council. Here with me on the dais in chambers is every single member of council as well as Madam Logan Ford. Prior to getting to our agenda, we'll ask you all to join us for a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a full agenda for this evening, but prior to getting into it, we'll ask for an adoption of the agenda. At this time, I entertain a motion from the dais to approve our agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made by Mayor Pro Tem Holmes and seconded by Councilman Andrew. Any discussion on the motion to approve our agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it, and we have our agenda. First item for discussion is a recognition. For that, I will actually ask. I'm going to ask you, but I'm going to wait until I get done reading to ask you. So it's High Point 911, and for those who don't know, when you call 911, someone has to answer it, and they've got to do the incredible work, serving like a triage, make sure you get where you need to go. And we get to do a Baker team recognition this evening. So I'm excited because we're going to recognize some folks who I don't know if I've had the privilege of recognizing you since we've been in this capacity. So thank y'all so much. On March 12, 2024, High Point 911 Baker team received a highly unusual but critical call from an individual in Florida. The individual was reporting a hostage situation in High Point being broadcasted via FaceTime. Our telecommunicators responded immediately to the situation. To view the private real-time FaceTime stream, telecommunicators contacted another individual who was with the caller in Florida, allowing them to view the FaceTime broadcast. The High Point Police and Fire Department were contacted for hostage negotiation and medical response. As events unfolded, telecommunicators provided real-time intelligence to all involved parties, handled other emergent events called into the dispatch center, and even ordered coffee for the negotiators. The situation concluded with the perpetrator being apprehended and the hostage being rescued with no major injuries to either party. Members of Baker team include Joe Meservey, Karen Shearer, David Wilson, Kate Brett, Ashley Guerin, and Justin Groves. In recognition of their professional and attentive response, the High Point 911 Baker team was awarded the 2024 Communications Team of the Year Award at the North Carolina Association of Public Safety Officials. As I call your name, please come to the front for the plaque presentation and photo. Director Adam Ward, Manager Kyle Thagard, Supervisor Joe Meservey, Karen Shearer, Ashley Guerin, Kate Brett, and Training Team Supervisor David Finley. Will you all please join me in celebrating them for their incredible work? All right, y'all, we're going to get together for a picture. What I'm going to do, if it's okay, I want to take a liberty here. I want to do a couple pictures. I'm going to do a picture just with the team, and I want to invite our police chief up to take a picture with them as well. Is that okay, y'all? All right, so Brandon, will you tell us? Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, And Chief, if you'll join us for the next one, please. Is our fire chief here as well? Okay. We don't save those hostages without your team, Chief, so thank you all. All right, hands again.
They did the hard part.
You say Chief did the hard part?
Yeah, well, the team did.
Well, but if your team doesn't order, if your team doesn't order coffee, I've seen Chief without coffee. I don't know.
This is true.
I don't know. It goes from being hard to difficult at that point. Thank you all so much. Should. Those are the incredible stories that when we get to hear about them, most times you think about those who work in municipal government. We see the folks every day who are doing work, and every so often you hear a story like that. It's a little different. It reminds you how important the jobs are. It could literally be a matter of life and death. So thank you all so much again, and appreciate everyone being with us to celebrate that. All right. We'll transition to the public comment period of our meeting. Several of you have taken the opportunity to sign up on our comment sheet. We'll call you in the order in which you're listed here. Anyone who did not sign up on the public comment sheet, you can still speak during the public comment period. All we will ask you to do is that you join us at the podium. Those who speak, once you join us at the podium, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. What we'll ask is that you use all your comments and direct them towards council, and that when you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record. First, we have Mr. Ken Orms.
Good evening. My name is Ken Orms. I live at 3525 Sainsbury Lane. And according to published reports, Mayor Jefferson and council members Holmes, Johnson, McKeever, and Peters support raising property taxes by 4.8%, despite having several ways to avoid doing this. A property tax increase will cause real harm to people living on a fixed income, seniors, disabled people, veterans, and those living at or below poverty line. Apparently, they don't seem to care. Thankfully, new council members, Andrew, Cook, Harmon, and hopefully Councilman Moore will reject the tax hike and budget. The budget allows the mayor and council to keep the 88% pay increase they gave themselves last year and gives them a 4.5% increase in their monthly allowance. The city manager wants to hire 5 new full-time employees, costing taxpayers $515 million. One new employee is a buyer who will make $67,000. The city manager says the city can save money by having someone negotiate better prices for supplies and services, but she fails to identify where or how the city is currently losing out on better prices, why she can't get better prices without hiring a new person, or even how much money she expects to save with this new person. Without this basic information, how can she justify hiring yet another employee? If this new buyer doesn't save the city at least the cost of their salary, why do we need this position, and will it be eliminated in the next budget? Unfortunately, council has a history of failing to tell the truth about a variety of issues and ignoring what voters tell them. Here's a couple of examples. Although rejected by 67% of voters in 2 counties, the council put High Point $76 million in debt by building a new stadium they said would cost $35 million. Although rejected by voters, council changed their term lengths from 2 to 4 years. Former Mayor Wagner said if 2 years terms were good enough for members of the Congress, they were good enough for High Point. Yet within a few months of being elected mayor, the council changed term lengths from 2 to 4 years. Now we have the proposed budget that increases taxes by 4.8%, and the city is raising water and sewer rates by 5% and says 4 to 6% annual increases will be needed in the future. For some time, I have suggested council trim all budget expenses by 1.25%. That is just 1 penny of every dollar. But Mayor Jefferson and council members Holmes, Johnson, McKeever, and Peters say that simply can't be done. Government is the only place in the world where they ask for a 5% increase, receive a 4% increase, and then complain their funding has been cut and the world is coming to an end. I call on Mayor Jefferson and council members Holmes, Johnson, McKeever, and Peters to do the right thing. Reject the budget submitted by the city manager, reduce expenses by
Mr. Owens, if you'll go ahead
1.25%, and
and
eliminate
wrap
the
up your
tax
comments.
increase. We need budget hawks, not budget lambs.
Thank you so much. Next person included on our list for public comment period is Matt Till. If you please join us at the podium, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record.
Sorry, I thought it was third. Matt Teal, 1018 Emery Circle. This weekend, we celebrate the city of High Point as a finalist for All-America City. This prestigious national award recognizes select communities for innovation, inclusion, and collaboration. It also recognizes vision and growth. What a difference 10 years makes in this city. In 2014, such a distinction to me seemed beyond us. As a community, we were often fighting against even the smallest ideas for improvement. And then something happened. High Point changed. With new leadership came a new mindset, one focused on growth. With faith and courage from so many, High Point started down a new path to a bigger and brighter future. Today, the fruits of that labor are all around us. We have a new stadium, new sports teams, new businesses, new opportunities. There is so much positive energy and momentum. This all equals newfound hope and a sense of pride in High Point that our future is better and brighter for all of us. Now it's time to consider how to best fund our city for the next year. No one enjoys paying more in taxes, and yet moving forward requires sacrifice from all of us. This is our latest opportunity to stand up for our community and our collective future. This is our opportunity to continue our investment in growth. I support the manager's budget because I believe it is the best way to keep our city growing, to keep our city developing, and to keep our city moving forward toward our full potential. We are building a better High Point. Let's continue this work together. Let's do it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Till. Next on our list, we have Louis Thibodeau. Mr. Thibodeau, if you'll come forward, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address council with your comments.
Louis Thibodeau, I reside at 1242 Kensington Drive, High Point. It's good to see all of you here tonight. 2 weeks ago when we came and spoke, some weren't here, so I'm glad to hear and see that you're all here. Good evening, City Council, City staff, and fellow citizens. When I came here 2 weeks ago and heard citizen after citizen speak on how this proposed budget would affect them and asked for your help, I thought maybe you heard some of what was said. I have come here to express my view that you have no thought of what was said, but that as said in one ear and out the other, meaning we the citizens came, spoke, and City Council is going to do what they want. Did you even try to do anything to help us in any of this? When property values were recently assessed, the city got, I believe, a $12 million windfall. That didn't just happen 1 year. This City Council, some I've spoken with, tout the city is doing great, just like this gentleman just said. But our city taxes keep going up. The last citizen to speak 2 weeks ago on the budget said, City Council, you need to go home and have a heart check. I am a believer in Jesus Christ, and I pray that he will burden your heart and conscience of what you are doing. I pray for each member of City Council hear from you in the matter of serving all the citizens of High Point and not of your own thoughts or agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thibodeau. Next on our list, we have Ms. Carly Hairston. Ms. Harrison, if you'll come forward, please state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to address council.
Carly Hairston, 1707 Oberlin Drive. Mr. Mayor, Madam City Manager, and High Point City Council, good evening. My name is Carly Hairston, and I'm the president of High Point Youth Council and a graduating senior at Southwest Gopher High School. I'm the president and for the affiliate of the High Point NAACP. I stand before you this evening to invite you and the community to join us for the UNI Transforming Youth Unity Rally, Saturday, June 22nd, 2024, from 3 to 5 p.m. at Williams Memorial CME Church, 3400 Triangle Lake Road, High Point, North Carolina. We will have words of encouragement, empowerment, youth choirs, youth praise dancers. Our speaker will be Pastor Timothy Simmons, Chairman of the Religious Affairs Committee. We ask adults, youth, and the entire community to come out and help us celebrate the talents of the youth in our community in a positive environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Next, we have Dr. Emma Harrison. If you'll please come forward and state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address council.
Thank you. Dr. Elma Hairston, Madam City Manager, Mr. Mayor, and Council. There are those who political grandstand and focus on the next election and would have us believe that the proposed tax rate increase is to pay for policy-based reparations and housing developments in disadvantaged communities. Let me uncover the elephant in the room. It is not. It benefits all. Just this morning, I talked to my brother, who's a senior citizen on fixed income here in 27260. I asked him, what do you think about the tax increase? And he said, well, you know, I don't like to see a tax increase, but will it help things? I said, I believe so. Let me tell you how. What the proposed tax rate means is a 3 cents on the dollar for someone in a home worth $200,000, that's $5 a month. For someone in a home worth $400,000, it's $10 a month. You know, some communities have always benefited from the lion's share of what's happening in this city and can ill afford to complain. But my brother said, well, what about those that rent? It's going to benefit you too, because when we call the police and the fire, you get the best and the brightest, and many of the vacancies in the police department are going to other places because they're receiving higher compensation. Our police are signing bonuses and what have you with other municipalities. The proposed tax increase ensures that our firefighters and police have competitive salaries. What I also learned was that if, in fact, we keep losing people in the fire department, we affect our overall safety rating. You know what that means? That means that we could have insurance premiums increase in businesses and residents, and if insurance rates increase or go up, landlords are going to charge more for the rent, and there's a far greater tax increase than they would happen with the tax increase that we're thinking about. He said, we either pay now, pay later, right? I said, yes. The 2045 plan calls for taking us into the future, and we have got to move into the future. We are supporting the projects through this plan. In housing, there will be contributions to the community-wide housing funding for developing affordable housing. In public transportation, there's going to be investing in transportation, workforce development, workability. We're leading from the rear. The only way we can remedy this is to proactively move forward and not reactively move behind. Yes, in 2022, the city had a surplus, but that came about because of how the county valued taxes. We don't want to do this like other municipalities, like Greensboro and Winston-Salem. They stayed the course. But there is a day of reckoning, and we got to figure out what to do. Lastly, because government and citizens must come together and vote for this tax rate increase, rise above self-interest and political grandstanding, and do what you need to do. Businesses need to come together and pay people a higher wage. Then businesses, the community can come together and make this thing work and
Dr.
pay
Harrison,
more into Social Security.
thank you so much. I'm sorry.
That's okay, but
Appreciate it. Thank you.
you get my drift.
Thank you so much. Next person on our list, I believe the last name is Palmer, first name Maria. Maria, if you are with us, please feel free to join us at the podium. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Maria Palmer, and I live at 1239 Franklin Avenue. I'm coming to let you know that I just moved to High Point, but since I've been here, my car has been vandalized twice. And it's in the neighborhood where, I mean, it's like elderly people live there, but where I live, it is so much crime. And I have seen the police that has been patrolling, but I would like to see more of the police. I would like to see them at least out, walking, some on bicycles, doing something for that neighborhood, because sooner or later, someone is going to get hurt. My car was actually one of the ones that got shot, and that was just 2 weeks ago. I just got my car back. And it is to the point where it's not that I don't want to go to sleep because of where I live or because of where my bedroom is. It's just so scary now. And I mean, I'm not scared for just my own self. I'm scared for everybody that lives around in that neighborhood. I mean, this is just not on a Saturday night. It's not on a Friday night. This was actually on a Tuesday. And it's so bad over there right now that when I get in my car, I have to absolutely look around because I don't know, what's going to be out and what's going to be around. And the house that's right in front of me, I don't know what is it. I don't know whether it's a car lot or what it is. But he has so many cars over there, we can't even get in our own driveway sometimes. So I would like to see some more police over there in that neighborhood. Thank you.
Ms. Palmer, thank you so much. Next on the list, we have Kenneth Brown. Mr. Brown, if you come forward, please state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to address council.
My name is Kenneth Brown. I live at 2701 Hague Street. I've been with the city for a little over a year now. That's why I like working here. We are understaffed and underpaid. We can't get no help because we're not making enough money. I propose that we get a raise of 20%. That'll bring everybody up to compete with High Point and, Greensboro and Winston-Salem. I've tried to get people to get off the street to get a job, show them where to go on the website, nothing. They look at the pay, we can't make a living off this. How can y'all do it? You overwork everybody on the water and sewer department. All we're asking is just a little bit of help. Thank you.
Mr. Brown, thank you so much. Point of privilege here. Can you tell me, when's the next pay study that we have for water and sewer and public services? Do you know right off the top of your head?
I don't know when water and sewer are next in the schedule to be studied, but we study a third of the workforce every year,
Okay.
and we make adjustments throughout the year for those. But I can get back with council, let you know when they're in the schedule. And we'll also make sure that staff knows.
Perfect. Mr. Brown, thank you so much. It is important to us that we can offer competitive salaries to every position here. And Madam Manager and her team do a pay study to make sure that we can see where it is and make those increases as necessary. We are very well aware that when we did the tax rate decrease a few years ago, it hampered some of our ability to do those salaries. The hope is that and hopefully really quickly, as in this evening, we'll be able to make some improvements towards being able to be in a position to support those salaries, as you say, Mr. Brown. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Next on our list, the name is Debbie Gunn. Ms. Gunn, if you'll come forward, please state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to address council. While Ms. Gunn is coming up, I'll let everyone know, even if you're not listed here, you can still speak during public comment period. Just feel free to come up and state your name and address for the record after Ms. Gunn. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to take the opportunity to speak. My name is Debbie Gunn. I live at 3909 Bannock Street, High Point. That's been my address since June 1st of 1987. I have 2 brother-in-laws that have been police officers, and one was with the city of High Point, the other one was city of Greensboro. I am an insurance agent and have been one for over 30 years. I reviewed the 258 pages in this proposed budget. It took quite a bit of time to do that. The areas that stood out the most to me that I cannot see that were addressed is the 8% increase on the health insurance. Now, by state law, each group, whether it's a government, an employer, or whoever, they are given a certain period of time to respond and request a rate increase, a rate decrease, a plan change, or something. My question is, if that 8% was proposed, when was it proposed, and what was done regarding that? I reviewed the employee benefits. We have extremely good benefits, and I compared them to the city of Greensboro and the city of Winston-Salem. Our employees are paying less for their benefits than any municipality in the area. I'm sure all of you probably have reviewed your own health insurance. How many of you have a $1,000 deductible? How many of you are paying less than $50 a month for your health insurance? The city of Winston-Salem, their employees are paying $100 a month, and the city employees of Greensboro are paying $100 for their benefits. Some government and businesses do not allow their spouses or their spouses' children to be on the benefit if they have benefits somewhere else. If we took the 1,752 employees and charged $50 more, which is still under $100 per employee, then we would save over $1 million. If we are not asking, and we've got this group in Charlotte, and I can't remember the name of the group right off the bat, but if that group proposes to us these benefits, the city of High Point, then we're given the opportunity to make changes. What's wrong? We have Cigna. The city of High Point employees have Cigna. What's wrong with Blue Cross? What's wrong with Aetna? What's wrong with United Healthcare? Shop it out. The state of North Carolina did the exact same thing. They're saving money as of 2025, and they're changing their plan from Blue Cross to Aetna. So this is something I think we should have addressed, and it's not too late at this point. You need to call the administrator. They need to get the quotes in. You could save a clear $1 million right there. Also, the life insurance went up. You know, the only reason some of these things change is that you have a lot of claims in certain areas. I did notice your workers' comp has gone down. That's usually something that's one of the things that normally goes up even more, so something was addressed on that aspect. I'll be glad to help, and I'll be glad to be an advisor on this. Thank you very much. Appreciate your help.
Ms. Gunn, thank you so much. Are there any other members of the public here who wish to speak during public comment period? If so, please feel free to join us up front. We'll be glad to listen to you. You have 3 minutes to address council. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Kimberly Volkman. I reside at 503 Steel Street. I did not intend to speak tonight. I'm normally fairly prepared. However, off the cuff of listening to some comments in here, I do feel the need to stand up. I do hear that people are in favor of the budget. I do hear that people are in favor of growth. And while I understand that, I'm fairly sure that the majority of people that are in this room right now are not living hand to mouth. They're not eating, they're not feeding their children and not eating themselves because they have to make a choice over who gets to eat and who doesn't. They're not 3 months behind in their rent and facing an eviction with absolutely nowhere to go and not the income to support what all property managers are now requiring in order for people to move in. So while I appreciate that the city wants to grow and that the community wants to grow, it needs to be the community as a whole. The last time I spoke, which several of you were not here for, which was very disappointing, by the way, I said you cannot grow this community on the backs of the blue worker collars and leave the low-income people behind, because that is what is happening. I also hear that a lot of people talk about police and fire. There's nobody that is disputing that police and fire need to be paid. This entire budget does not go to police and fire, so I feel like that's kind of a shady cop-out to keep bringing up police and fire as a support of the budget. The entire budget does not support the police and fire, and nobody is disputing they should be paid. Finally, I feel that there is an unfair comparison in this room happening between Greensboro and Winston. They have more than 300,000 residents. We have 120. We're comparing limes to apples. I mean, nobody's comparing small cities of our stature with other small cities of our stature, so it's not a reasonable comparison. There are over 300,000 citizens in Greensboro and Winston. We're at 120. We shouldn't be keeping up with that pay. And also, while I appreciate that the city wants to pay their employees fair wages, and I don't disagree with that, fair wages are not being supported across the city outside of the municipality. So while the property taxes go up and people want to say, well, it's $5 a month here, $10 a month there are people that cannot afford that. There are people that are making $7.50 an hour, and they're trying to support $980 a month in rent. It's basic math. We are talking about supporting the community as a whole, which means the lowest paid to the highest paid. And I do not feel that the lowest paid people are being properly supported in this budget. I don't feel that there is any support for them. Their landlords are going to increase their rent. And then what happens to them? They're already deciding that they're going without meals to make sure their children eat. So while we're growing, where are they? Living in an encampment in the bushes somewhere? Because those are all over the city. And I'd be happy to go get some pictures of how that looks when we're talking about growing. Or maybe we'll just cut them out so there's no more bushes left. Thank you.
Ms. Volkman, thank you so much. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak during public comment period? Okay, well, we'll go ahead and close our public comment period and thank every single person who took some time to come out and be a part of that. I will say civic engagement is very important, and this council respects and appreciates everyone's voice, so thank you all so much. Next on our agenda, we have a list of consent agenda items. These items were discussed in our most recent Finance Committee meeting. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve our consent agenda items.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Holmes and seconded by Councilman Andrew. Is there any discussion on the motion to approve our consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it, and that motion passes. Next, we'll move to the general business portion of our agenda. Item 2024-202, consideration of an Oakwood Memorial Park Cemetery historic marker. For that, I'll call on Mr. David Fensel, Senior Planner with the City of High Point.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. We do have a request from the High Point Preservation Society tonight for a historic marker to commemorate the Oakwood Memorial Park Cemetery on the south side of Cubane Avenue, near the cemetery entrance. This property is currently, the gatekeeper's cottage and entrance gates are in the process of being restored. This marker would recognize those efforts as well as commemorate the significance of this portion of the city's cemetery. The High Point Historic Preservation Society is purchasing this marker, and the Historic Preservation Commission, at their meeting in April, unanimously recommended approval of this request, as well as staff is also recommending approval of this request. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Fensel. Just for clarity's sake, this is an item that you're looking for council to approve the marker being placed there.
That's correct.
But there is not a budgetary impact since.
That is correct. Yes.
You mentioned the
marker's being
historical,
purchased.
sorry, the Preservation Society will be paying for it.
That is correct.
Okay. So council's being considered to approve it being placed.
Location within the street right away.
Okay, perfect.
Is why it requires your approval.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Any questions or discussion from council regarding this item? Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Moore, seconded made by Councilmember Johnson. Any discussion on the motion to approve? I'll make a quick comment just to say thank you to the Preservation Society for being a really good partner when it comes to efforts related to preservation, and looking forward to this going up. With that, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it, and that motion passes. At this time, we will acknowledge and have to have a few recusals for some of our budget ordinance items. With that, I'll ask for a motion for recusals. Is there a motion to recuse, as stated here, the mayor, Councilmember Peters, and Councilman Harmon from Fort High Point, as well as the mayor from High Point Market Authority and Councilmember Peters from Visit High Point?
So moved. Second.
You want us to do separate?
The council members need to kind of just offer their recusal for each one that they
So the offer and don't do vote this time.
Exactly what you just did, it's just for the council members to confirm that they sit on those boards, and that's why they're offering their recusal.
And then motion to accept recusals. Okay. I'll lead the charge. I would like to offer my recusal for the vote on Ford High Point and the vote on the High Point International Home Furnishings Market Authority.
I accept my recusal for voting on Visit High Point.
I offer my recusal from the Forward High Point vote.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept those recusals?
Second.
Motion is made by Councilmember Moore, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Holmes. Any discussion on the motion to accept the recusals? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it, and the recusals have been accepted.
At this time, the next item on our agenda is item 2024-229, consideration of the FY 24-25 annual budget ordinance for Ford High Point. Council is requested to consider the adoption of the City of High Point's FY 24-25 annual budget ordinance for Ford High Point. At this time, I will entertain a motion to accept item 2024-229.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Moore. Is there a
Second.
Second by Councilmember Johnson. Any discussion on the item? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item, 2024-230, consideration of the 2024-25 High Point International Home Furnishings Market Authority Corporation budget. At this time, I will accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
There's a motion by Councilman Harmon. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Moore. Any discussion on the item?
I will say, Mayor Pro Tem, that we had a lengthy discussion with these three groups at the work session last Wednesday, just as an FYI for everybody.
Thank you, Councilman Harmon. Any other discussion items? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you also, Madam Attorney. We went over that in the back, and I still screwed that up. I'm so sorry about that. Item 2024-231, consideration of FY 2024-2025 High Point Convention and Visitors Bureau and their budget allocation. Is there a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Holmes. Is there a second? Second made by Councilmember Cook. Any discussion on the motion to approve this item? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it, and that motion passes. Next is consideration of the City of High Point's FY 2024-2025 annual budget ordinance. Council is requested to consider the adoption of the City of High Point's 2024-2025 annual budget ordinance for the City of High Point, including proposed changes to the fee schedule. There will not be a presentation on this. Council has had first a meeting about a month ago on this, then several budget work sessions and a budget hearing on this. But if there are questions from council for staff, staff is glad to speak on this and address any questions or concerns.
I don't have any questions, but I have some comments before the vote.
Okay, well, I was going to say, if we can get a vote then, in some way, some kind of motion here.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adopt the 24-25 budget as proposed.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Holmes. Is there a second? Second made by Councilmember Peters. Let's open it up for discussion on this motion.
I vote
Councilman Moore.
versus Councilman Moore. Budgets are always tough. There's an accumulation of 364 days that have gone by for city operations. And each 2 weeks, as finance chair, I preside over the finance committee and see with my colleagues the things that come before us recommended and the challenges that have been coming. We hear each of your comments tonight, and I have a long history of trying to have conservative leadership with taxpayer money for all levels. And I hear our employees speak tonight, and I hear some concerned citizens speak tonight. And not just tonight. I've been bombarded from all angles, trust me. In 2010, And to the point made earlier, I've always said that High Point's the independent city, and we don't need to do everything Greensboro and Charlotte and Winston are. But there are some things where we are intertwined. And part of that is competing for talent to run our city. There are items over the last 364 days in this budget that I voted against, and I lost. There are items in this budget that we need. So this budget, I look at, try to, from a business perspective, and make clear the city's not in the business of making a profit. That's not what we do. And when you ask any financial person or financial advisor, I'm sure they will tell you, you need to plan for what's in front of you and what you think's coming down the road. The decision that we made last year to reduce taxes by 3 cents was pretty much totally lost by most people, and it's understandable when we're all facing the inflationary pressures, when we're dealing with coming out of COVID, and we will continue, I'll put it on the record, we will continue to deal with the ramifications of COVID for at least the next decade. So there's a whole lot that goes into this budget besides just one item, and each member on council knows that. To make sure the record's clear, the city is asking for a 3 cent tax increase, not a 4.8 and not a 6.9. The $12 million windfall, supposed windfall, was brought up, as many of the questions have been over the last month since we started the process, and staff has worked with department heads and supplied their response to each and every question that has been presented. So as we make this decision tonight, my concern's not only for today, but it's for where we're going to be in the next year's budget in 364 days. The things that I mentioned that are in the budget that I discussed my reasoning why I was not in favor for, I can't change that they're there. But the things that are good in this budget are mainly to the top of my mind, speak to the police and fire and first responders, which has been under assault, if you want to use that word, for about the last 4 or 5 years, it seems, and maybe sometimes justifiable. But the High Point Police Department does incredible work. Our fire and first responders, our 911 team that we just saluted. So just to put in context, when I first got on council in 2010, our tax rate was 6.30. It subsequently moved in 2013 to 6.75. It steadily decreased over the following years until it stabilized from 2017 through 2022 at 64.75. In 2023, it reduced to 61.75%. Greensboro, who we share a large part of Guilford County allocations and the challenges of the valuations that hit us all, that move to reduce and try to help the burden on our taxpayers cost the city in revenue $830,000 the way the sales tax formula is created and what we get in the city of High Point from Guilford County. That has to be made up somewhere. If we don't move and the others do move, then that number likely goes up 50 to 100%. So there are avenues. I've lost sleep over this budget. I may lose friends over this budget. But we have to look at a budget in its totality. And one of the things it also affects is our bond rating. And when we go, and we will have to go and issue debt at some point, the bond rating is what they determine how much money we, all of us taxpayers, are going to have to pay back. And Bobby Fitzjohn and Steve Howlick and all of our team do a really good job the other 364 days each year and looking for ways to make it as financially savings-wise as they can. So I could go on. I'll throw out one more thing, and there's a list that's published that you can see where the $12.2 million windfall went. And it wasn't to frivolous things. It was things like firing range improvements, fire station upgrades, Oak Hollow renovations for Parks and Rec, local bridge and maintenance repair. So I hope that people will view this and look at it in its totality for the fact that it is an increase. I get it. But it could be much worse, and compare the management over time of your dollars versus what's being asked of Greensboro and Winston-Salem this year, including their tax and their fees. I live in High Point. I'm on Duke Power. I'd give a whole lot if I could be on the City of High Point's power. So with that being said, I guess I'm the old man here, and I took a little bit of liberty with some time, but I've worked too hard and too long for over a decade to try to just let this go as a grandstand on some political vote or something like that. This is about numbers. This has nothing to do with politics. And as much as anybody wants to make it that, in my case, it's not. So for the first time in a very long time, I'm going to vote in favor of this budget. And the main priority and reason I'm going to vote for it is the gentleman sitting in here with the badges on, and the men and women that get up every day and put on the uniform and put on the firefighting uniform and go in to work the 911 centers, and the gentleman back here that's working in our water and sewer department that shared his concerns. And I owe part of what I do to help represent all of that. So I am always open and available through email, through telephone calls, and through debate. And I want to personally and publicly thank folks like Ken Orms for continuously coming out and continuously giving us ideas and continuously giving us challenges and debates. And I hope that others will do the same as we go forward together into the next 364 days before we see the next budget.
Councilman Moore, thank you so much. Appreciate your comments. Are there any other comments from the dais regarding this motion?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to add a few thoughts.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
The sole purpose that we were elected to do was to work in conjunction with our city staff to provide you, the citizens, the absolute best quality service that we can offer as a city. In order for us to do that, we have to have the absolute best quality people that we can. We talk about governments of, for, and by the people. That's not lost on why we do what we do. It's not lost on why we're here. All of us are inextricably intertwined in this community. None of us are exempt from the decisions that are made here. I live in an area where, frankly, my taxes are very high. I'm not exempt. No one on this dais is exempt from that decision. We all have skin in this game. And when we go forward, as Councilman Moore said, together, we're all going forward for a future of High Point that benefits everyone. And in order for us to provide the type of service that all of you deserve, we have to be able to provide you with the best service with the best people, because all of us are in this thing together. And so as we think about these budgets, this budget is not about buildings. This budget is not about roads. It's about the people who are in these buildings and the people who travel on these roads. They provide you with customer service when you go into the store. They protect you when your car is shot. They respond when your house is burning down. They make sure that your water is clean so that your children won't get sick. Those people make up this city, and these people deserve our respect. They deserve for us to do the best that we can by them so that they can do the best that they can by you. Please remember that as we take these steps. And they're not easy. We don't take them lightly, but we take them on your behalf.
Thank you, Councilman Holmes. Looks like Councilman Andrew, I'll go and recognize you next.
Thank you. The budget is difficult, and being new on council, we are faced with antithetical needs, whereas we have very clearly and loudly heard from the public, at least my communication with the public, that there is a resistance to a tax increase, but we also need to take care of our personnel. Call it naivete, call it being the new guy. I appreciate the work of the staff and all of the knowledge I've gotten over the last few weeks on this budget. I still have challenges with it, and perhaps as I spend more time on council, I'll get smarter, but I don't think this is the correct time. And again, I appreciate what we're trying to do moving forward, but I think we need to more clearly promote the vision of High Point, especially in our social media, so that people will be more interested in what we're doing moving forward, and perhaps there'll be more of an appetite for these types of increases. Thank you.
Councilman Andrew, thank you so much. Are there any other members of council who wish to speak on this? I recognize Councilman Harmon.
Cook, I think. You can go ahead. Go ahead, Councilmember Cook, then I'll go after you.
Okay, let's go Councilmember Cook, then we'll go Councilmember Harmon.
Well, I'll try to be brief as well. I feel that I have asked a lot of hard questions of the staff, of the other council members. You know, I had a lot of concerns as well, and I only heard people asking not to raise taxes, and until today. And I will say that I do appreciate each and every email that I've gotten, and I appreciate the engagement as well. That was one of my goals in serving in council, was to see an increased public discourse. And I've been committed to that in every aspect of my service so far. I made a bold statement last week at our work session that I would not support a 3-cent increase. And since then, I have taken time. I've talked with other council members, reached out on my behalf, and then I've had people reach out to me. And one of the things I had to evaluate for myself was, how could I say that any headline that says a tax increase is going to raise rents and hurt people, and then say on the other hand that I would support 2 instead of 3. I had to evaluate if I'm willing to support 2 right now to see progress and question some of the projects. Am I willing to say no to the salary increases that will be necessary for the next round of employees that we evaluate? I had to ask myself a lot of really tough questions about how I, as somebody who has sat in a grocery store parking lot waiting for a direct deposit to hit in order to buy groceries, how I could support putting any further burden on people who I know are hurting. Because I have, in the 7 months that I've been serving, I have talked to people who are living in churches, and there are no resources for them because of the unique design of their family. And they did this, they broke themselves apart in order to survive. And how could I support it? I feel that tonight I have come to a conclusion that I can be at peace with. I hope that I'm not faced with this question year after year after year. I hope that if I get on board and vote for progress and vote in a way that I feel confident in tonight, that we will be committed to not doing this at every turn, and that the partners who are benefiting from this progress and this investment will hold themselves accountable to step in and help alleviate the rising costs of things in these projects that we are embarking on. I hope that they will stand up and support the projects financially. I appreciate the words and the affirmations for the work that previous councils before me have started, but I do want to see more bold statements from the community partners. I do want to see checks being written. I do want to see progress being propelled by them, and I want to see them care for our community and include our community. And I also had to ask myself, after we were presented with one of our close partners saying that the owners in their community do not have much interest in being open to the public, and they don't see that as part of their role. I do hope that they will continue to evaluate that belief. I hope that they will look for opportunities to partner with the public and to bring the public in and to be available and open and stand alongside of us in all of these initiatives, and not stand to just take the benefit and keep their doors closed. I want to see High Point open for business. I want to see people with job opportunities, and I want to see everyone being able to celebrate together. And so I'm taking this time to say that I have changed my mind since last Wednesday. It was not easy, and I hope that it pays off. I have a belief that it will, but I'm not afraid to say if it's not, and I'm not afraid to say that I'm not always on board with every single detail that's being planned. However, I think that at this point, I don't want to be back here next year, and I'm trusting and believing that this increase right now is going to put the investment in the right places for the future moving forward.
Councilmember Cook, thank you. Next, we'll recognize Councilmember Harmon.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to provide some clarification. I mean, a tax increase, a property tax increase is inevitable. Could we have done it? Not raising property taxes this year, probably not, because not very sustainable. But I did offer up a number of ideas the last few weeks. If you want to see some of them, they're on the PowerPoint from the last work session that I still think are viable. Turn them back to two. The budget is about choices, and I think there are still choices to be made not to do the 3-cent property tax increase. Because it's not only that, there's a water and sewer 5% increase, which has to be done, because if you get behind on water and sewer and things start breaking, there's a thing in consent agenda tonight about Inslee Creek, and looking at that, that's probably going to have to be replaced, and that's a lot of money. You might see this story about Atlanta and their water and sewer this past weekend. So that's an ongoing need that's going to have to be replenished, the water and sewer, because there's a lot of growth that's going to be happening into the area as well. And so I'm still a no, but I just want to be clear that I still believe there's a property tax that needed to be, property tax increase that needed to happen, just not a 3-cent.
Thank you, Councilmember Harmon. Are there any other members of council? I'll recognize Councilmember Johnson.
The young lady asked us a question in regards to checking our hearts, okay? And so that I took that to heart to make sure, okay? As a council person who's been on here second term, we continue to go through the budgets, and this is a council that cares about our citizens. If that was not the case, we would not have reduced, okay, 3%. Okay, so definitely with this, I said a lot of good things. Is it a perfect budget? Okay, some of us don't have perfect budgets personally, okay? But I do support, definitely, and it's not all about, as someone mentioned about the police and the fire department, 911, but those are important elements. Because I, for one, if there's something going on in my neighborhood, I'm calling the police, okay? And I want them to answer on the when I call them. okay? If there's a fire that's going on, okay, I'm gonna call. I want them to pick up, and we want the best people, okay? Because it's very competitive out there, as we know. And so I will be supporting it, the budget the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. Are there any other comments from council? Hearing none, I'll make a few comments myself, and I'll try to keep it manageable and keep it brief. I think first I want to say thank you to every single person who showed up. I cannot understate how important civic engagement is. America, as a democracy, still one of the youngest countries on this planet, still, quite frankly, an experiment. And it's the kind of experiment that we get to test, that we get to live out, and that we get to see the results of every single day. And I find myself filled with gratitude when those results yield people here in these chambers, rather than folks being apathetic, not showing up, rather than people not emailing us, rather than people not getting engaged, not pulling out the spreadsheets and calculators, seeing if they can figure it out. This is what the forefathers and founders always hoped for, is that people would take the time to have discourse, to debate, to deliberate. I have no issues when, as our elder statesman said, he took some time. We have to take time. If we were just meant to do these things in a vacuum and move efficiently, then we just let AI make all the decisions for us. But as a people, we're making the decisions. As a people, we were able to hear from folks, and that means a ton to me. The budget that was shared, I think folks have heard what we see in terms of the impact. We do feel that it would be a good return on investment. There was a comment made regarding thinking about people from lower income neighborhoods. I think folks who know me know I've spent the past 5 years being a voice for folks from low income neighborhoods, being a voice of someone who lives in 27260, someone who graduated from Andrews High School, someone who taught at that same school and had to help a lot of kids when they were making a decision to not eat because their little brother had to eat. I know that all too well. And I can guarantee you no one's making this decision without thinking about them. That I can guarantee you. We talk about the salaries. I was called to do a news interview today from WFMY. And it was about the budget. And I said, oh, Lord, they're going to call me and ask my opinion on this budget. And their comments were actually different. They said they got a lot of concerns from people who said we weren't raising salaries enough, who said people appreciate that we're doing this for fire and police, but people are concerned that it's not enough for them and that it won't be enough for our workers next year. So I had to answer and do a 10-minute interview with WFMY today about how, as a city, we're going to continue to be rigorous to study and figure out how we can manage this going forward. Because the environment that we are in, no one likes it. No one likes having to compete for talent. As much as we say government folks can just tighten their pockets, yeah, well, we've said that and we've seen the vacancies. I shook the hand of a sheriff deputy who was once a High Point Police Department officer just 6 months ago. He didn't have to move his job. His commute is even shorter. $10,000 bump in pay. And he said, Mr. Mayor, I'm just be honest with you because I know you care about your community. He said, I'm not the only one. This is all folks talk about every single day. And then to hear Mr. Brown come in today to talk about water, sewer, and maintenance department, it took a lot of courage for you to come up here. It took an incredible amount of courage to come up here. I don't know how many times a city employee came and spoke at that podium to tell us what you told us today, but you made it very clear. And I think as a council, what we want to always be known for is listening and hearing that and being responsive to that, which is why it is important to us that we can do the studying. And we don't just pick some arbitrary number. We don't just say, hey, let's just increase it 5,000 and see what they say. It's diligent studying to see where we are and can we be competitive. We're not even at the higher end of the totem pole, so we're not trying to be the same as Charlotte and Durham and Raleigh. We're just saying, can we be competitive enough to keep the folks here? I think it was mentioned by someone earlier that if you see enough vacancies in some of these departments, such as fire, that will impact the city's overall fire safety rating. Please reserve your comments. Thank you. It'll impact the city's overall fire safety rating, that if we can't get and respond to calls in enough time, insurance could raise it on us. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, this council just heard this about an hour and a half ago from our assistant chief, that response times impact fire rating, which impacts what you pay in your insurance. And if you think $5 a month is tough, wait until your insurance gets a hold of it, because our fire rating went down. You talk about investing in critical infrastructure to support clean water, improve neighborhoods, increase access to amenities that folks can depend on. There was an FAQ document that was shared. I agree with Councilman Andrew. This city government can be and should be and will be a whole lot better about communicating with residents, about ensuring that the vision gets articulated. But that means we got to do it in a myriad of ways. That means that when we heard people last year say, I can't get to meetings because I'm working those 2 jobs to take care of my little kids, but I want to pay attention. Can you please stream meetings? We got to hear that too. Even if you don't think the meetings need to be streamed, someone does. That's democracy. And then all the projects from housing to public transportation to workforce development to creating a more walkable and engaging city. I think these are the things everyone's been hearing and things that we want to keep working towards. And I truly wish, because there was a comment earlier today said about how we're increasing wages for city employees, but not people who live in the city. We can't directly impact that, but we can indirectly impact that. We can indirectly ensure that we are investing in workforce development. We can indirectly ensure that we're recruiting more jobs to the area. We can try to build more housing so that way we can keep the cost of housing lower. These are big projects and big problems that we talk about every single day. And that's something I can guarantee you we won't stop talking about it, because it matters and it means something to us. And then finally, I want to speak to the point made by Councilmember Cook that everything we do takes partnership. And we do this budget, what it should be is an investment, in that we should see that return on that investment, but not just business leaders and developers who will invest, but quite frankly, every single resident and stakeholder. We want to see the kind of return that sees this city move forward and not backwards. We want to see the kind of return that sees this city champion the causes that matter to every single one of us. And that when we look back, we'll be able to know it was the right decision, because High Point will be in a better place. And that I feel very confident about. So thank you all so much for bearing with me on that. We have our motion and we have our second. Hearing no other discussion on the topic unless there's someone else who wants to speak, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against?
Against, nay.
Against.
And just for the record, I believe our vote is 7-2. So, all right, thank you so much. That motion has been passed. Thank you so much. All right, next item is 2024-226, which is a closed session item. So for that, I need a motion to go into closed session.
Before we go, can I make a comment?
Absolutely. Can we get this?
Yeah, before everybody leaves, I want to echo and say thank you for coming out. And for those that were able to come downtown, as someone that was born and raised in this city, and very thankful that we have the international home furnishing capital of the world, and once the textile capital of the world, and makes our downtown unique. For all of us that may have been for or against what started in 2016 downtown, the event of the soccer team, first home game downtown, was eye-opening and very heartwarming and very encouraging. Because I saw a lot of people downtown, number one, that I didn't know. And I saw a lot of young people downtown. And I saw a lot of millennials downtown. And it felt energized and it felt safe. And to all those that did and took part in that, I hope that if you haven't, that at some point you will. And because there's just so much to that small event there that feeds into the bigger. So that was a positive. And after such a stressful night, I wanted to end on something positive. Thank you.
Councilman Moore, thank you so much. Is there a motion to go into closed session? Second. Is there a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Councilmember Johnson? Any discussion on the motion to go into closed session? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against, that motion passes, and we will be in closed session. We'll meet over in the fishbowl room.